Are you a people pleaser? What are the cons and pros of being a people pleaser? Well, let's find out together. Welcome to the Art of Becoming Unstuck podcast show. I'm your host, Arda Ozdemir, and I'm here with Rise to Realize certified life coaches, Elizabeth, Jon, and Beth. Hi, guys.
Hey, Arda. Hello. Hey, guys. Hi, Jon. Hi, Beth.
Hi, everyone.
Yes. Hi.
So happy to be with you guys here and exploring this people pleaser concept, because there are pros and cons about this. Okay, it's not all negative. Let's start with the definition of people pleaser. Elizabeth, do you have your wisdom? Who is a people pleaser? Can you enlighten us?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first thing I would say off the top of my head is someone like me. And someone who just has a hard time saying no to other people's requests. And when you don't say no, then you're always doing more than you really want to do. Do you have that, Jon or Beth? Do you have that? Like, I don't know if you're a people pleaser or no one, but it's exhausting and it's hard to set boundaries.
Yeah, Jon, what do you think?
No, I totally agree with that definition. I was so much of a people pleaser. I swear I was wearing a name tag my whole life saying, hi, my name is Jon. I'm a people pleaser. Because everybody wanted to come to me, ask for things, because I would always say yes. They knew I would never say no.
How can I serve you? Kind of thing.
How can I serve you? And at the end of the day, I'd be so tired because basically I was trading my energy, my time, everything for to please someone else. Because yes. that was my way of getting dopamine hits of like these Facebook likes. Okay, they like me. Because I didn't really pretty much like myself, right? Who I was. So I was getting external validation from all this. Yeah. And so yeah, it was definitely people pleaser syndrome for sure.
Yeah,
Beth,
and I'm definitely in that camp. I've definitely am on my people pleasing journey. I don't think I'm quite over it yet, but I am making progress in the right direction. One concept I wanted to kind of throw out there that relates to this topic is this idea: are you a more than or a less than? Are you an individual that feels like you are more than, which is sort of maybe the opposite of a people pleaser, or are you like a less than? So I think that is another sort of nuance to this people pleasing question.
Are you asking about more the motives of a people pleaser? Like, do you think that we are, Beth, we are people pleaser because we are feeling less than others? So by serving them, by saying yes, we are trying to level our way of feeling about ourselves?
Yes, that's what I think. And then I think there's another camp of people that, I don't know if our ex-president fits into this category, but more of a more than, which is, has it, I mean, neither are desirable or neither are the way to be, but I think sometimes people can kind of fall into either of these camps.
It's always a polarity. And Jon, Elizabeth, whoever wants to go first, like, where do you guys see yourself in that polarity? And do you relate to that less than feeling?
Yeah, go ahead, Jon. Yeah, go ahead, because it's a hard one for me to grasp.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, for me, it's for sure less than, in terms of what's driving the people pleasing. I'm feeling less than others or lower self-worth. But it's funny, Beth, the exact thought I've always, when I think about people pleasing, the number one question that comes to me is like, but what's the opposite of that? Like, what if you're more than, and how does that play out? And what's the opposite of people pleasing? So it's so funny you're touching on a big question I've had for the team here.
Yeah.
Elizabeth?
What is the opposite of? Well, I want to ask you. Well, that's a really good question. Like a people displeaser or something like that. And who does that? But maybe there's a personality type that does that. But I have a friend, and this friend's always doing things for everyone else, and she's exhausted all the time. But when I asked her about it, and I was stumped, I didn't know how to answer this, and maybe Arda, you can help me here. I'm like, why are you doing that? Oh, it's okay. No, that's my job, it's my responsibility, but you're exhausted. No. I meant, what am I supposed to say? No, and just not help anybody? Am I supposed to be a people displeaser? That's not what she said,
Exactly.
but as it kind of works into that. And I couldn't really grasp like boundaries and doing too much and how to explain that to her. But I could see it, and I'm a lot like that. So, and I feel guilty if I don't follow through and do all the things asked of me.
Yeah, I mean, these are great points, because I think once we recognize that polarity, why do the people fall in one of the polarities, right? So why do people become people pleaser? Because by serving others, they create the validation, they create their self-worth. So they don't know that they are paying for it, but they are enjoying that validation, they are enjoying that worth. So therefore they cannot give that up. So they get into that pattern, even though it's a limiting life pattern. Like Jon was saying, there's this like, and also your friend, like they cannot give up that way of living, the way of validating themselves, because that part of themselves who doesn't feel valued is seeking for that. So that's why they are in the pattern. So also I want to introduce another concept. I heard this, and obviously I am a people pleaser, and that's why most of my clients are people pleaser, and also no wonder you guys are all kind of relating to this, because most of us are so people, right? So we want to help. So it is not really ingenuine that we don't want to help them, and it's just for the validation of ourselves or getting our worth back. So we are people, so we love that interaction and connection. So I heard this terminology, givers and takers. Maybe that's also what Beth was saying about the polarity. Beth, you want to maybe touch on that? Yeah.
Sorry, because I was going to take it a slightly different. When you were talking, you made me think about one thing that might, help people that are people pleasers is that concept. And I think you've spoken on it on a few different platforms about boundaries. So sometimes creating your boundaries help, enables you to do things for other people, because we do get validation and a reward from that, but doing it so we're not exhausted, so we're not overtaxing ourselves.
Yes, that is a great point. So how do we think a people pleaser could set boundaries to kind of maintain that energy and prevent it from spilling out, so that they are over-serving, they are giving themselves overly to others to get that validation, because it needs a balance. Right?
Well, first of all, you have to realize you're people pleasing, and you have to realize you're exhausted, and you have to want to change. Those are like 3 big things, right? Oh, no, that's just the way I was raised. That's the way I am, without saying, oh, that's a limiting life pattern, right? And then
nailed it.
Yeah. And so then when somebody is people pleasing and you change and you try to put up boundaries, everybody's like, what happened to you? What do you mean? Are you going to that, that funeral? No, I didn't know her very well. What do you mean? You saw her once in the street and you're not going to the funeral? And I'm like, no. Oh my God. Like, what's the matter with you? And then I'm like, well, maybe I should just go and show my face. And so it's really hard because people aren't used to you having boundaries.
Exactly. And what is that feeling? Is that a guilt, Jon? What do you think? Is that a guilt? If you said no, what will happen to you? Are you going to be like, oh my God? What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, for sure, guilt would be the number one overwhelming feeling that hits me. But then kind of take a step back too, when you guys are talking about boundaries, and when I think about people pleasing, and at least my journey through it all, is that it's like starting with like understanding my values, right? One of my core values is fairness, for example, right? But yet I'll wash dishes 10 days in a row. On the 11th day, my wife's going to wash dishes, and I'll be like, no, stop. Let me wash those dishes for you. I only did it 10 days in a row. Let me do the next 10 days in a row, right? And so, she's programmed to enable me to do that and all that. But anyway, so I think understanding your boundaries, communicating them is the first start, because I think with people pleasing, we tend to compromise our values for others. And so I think that's part of what really drains us faster, is always acting against our values for the sake of others.
Almost, it's like we are giving up part of ourselves. I think that's kind of what I'm hearing from you guys. It's just like when we don't stand by our values, and if we don't set our boundaries, if we keep saying no to things, all of a sudden we are afraid that we are disconnecting. But in order to connect, we are giving up part of ourselves to others, and that comes with a cost of energy, time, self-esteem even. So beautiful. And Beth, do you have maybe Elizabeth gave and John gave a great example.
I just wanted to tack on to Elizabeth is one thing that I feel like is one of my go-tos. If someone asks me to do something, instead of saying yes right away, just giving myself a break and thinking about it. It's not a yes or it's not a no. It's just like, let me think about it. And so it gives me time to sit back and process. And then for your funeral, it'll give you a little time to sit back and process. And if that person starts to react to you in a certain way, like, I can't believe you're not going, you haven't said no yet, right? So you have some time to kind of think of a script or something as you're practicing your boundary.
Yes.
And then
that
the other
is amazing. Wait, can I just interrupt? That's amazing. My son does that. He goes, let me think about it. And I'm like, where did he get that? Not from me. And like, what a great answer. Let me think about it. Perfect. I'm so glad you said that. Go ahead.
And that was the other thing I was just going to tack on to what Jon was saying is it's almost like reaching back into, well, something that Jon was saying is about, giving and taking, right? So it's sort of like you're so used to giving, it's almost like allowing yourself to sit in the receiving seat. So when your wife is offering to do the dishes, you're so used to giving and just saying, I can receive, right?
Yes.
And ask almost like, I think like going against the opposite of people pleasing, I'd say like a 5 out of 10 response would be saying no instead of yes. And then like an 8 out of 10 to me would be like actually asking for help. That's so against my nature. It's so hard to ask someone for help. And that's how I know I'm a people pleaser, because every time I want to ask for help, I'm like, no, I can't do this. That's not me. So exactly.
This discussion is interesting because that ability to take back, right? The ability and I think, Elizabeth, you gave those 3 points: understanding and ability to say, and then also understanding what's happening, and this giver and taker, this response. Can we take? Are we able to take when we are given the service that we provide to others? Without the guilt.
Without the guilt.
Well,
Right?
This is the issue I was going to raise, Arda and Beth and Jon. So we're on the same wavelength. So awesome. This is kind of like embarrassing, but I'm going to say it anyway, just because that's what I do. Sometimes I'm so burnt out. I need help. And I don't want to ask anybody because I know I'm going to have to give that service back at some point. So when my son was small, can you watch Johan for an hour? Because I got to run to the here and here and here. I know that person is probably going to say, can you watch my 3 kids all weekend? And then I feel like obligated to give back, and I don't want to. So then I would try to find something else and just pay somebody so I don't have to get into that predicament. So how do you explain that? I don't know.
But Elizabeth, tacking on to that, because I have 3 children, I won't ask you to look after them.
No, please don't. I'm over that. I've been there, done that.
If you did, the answer will be yes. So make sure
that. Think about it, Beth.
No, but to follow up on that, think about us as people pleasers. I mean, there's an aspect that we get joy from helping others. So we have to, when we ask for help, we have to say, okay, like, and maybe more of not maybe necessarily your example, because that doesn't sound like it's reciprocal, but there's times that I really don't mind doing the dishes 10 days in a row, right? And so if that's helpful, but if I'm asking for help, somebody else might get that same joy from helping me, and I'm not
Exactly.
allowing them that
Exactly.
gift.
What's in the way? What's in the way, Beth? And what's in the way that does not give you the kind of the openness or give them the allowance to help you? Why are you refusing the help when it's offered to you?
Right. Well, that was a way that I could frame it to help me be able to ask for help, is to say, okay, just like I would receive joy from helping my friend, I'm giving her almost a gift by asking her to help me.
Yes. Oh, good perspective. Elizabeth, what do you think your hurdle is when somebody's offering you, hey, Elizabeth, I'm going to give you a ride to the airport. It's out of my way, but you know what? You've done so much for me. I'm going to give it back to you. I just want it.
No one does that to me, Arda. No one.
What?
No one does that. It's like, I'll get like, oh, can I get a ride to the airport? I hate going to the airport. Yeah, okay, yes, I'll give you a ride to the airport. No problem. And then like a month later, it's like, oh, there's my ride to the airport. Hey, you available? And I'm like, oh my God. Then I get into this pattern and I can't say no anymore.
But have you, so you're not offered any help. So we're going to pass that.
No.
So Jon, have you, when your wife offers you, what is in the way to say yes to
Guilt.
her?
One word, guilt. 100% guilt. Yeah.
Guilt. Back to this guilt. Does anybody know what we call guilt from the Art of Becoming Unstuck, the book? What do we call guilt?
I forgot you, but you've mentioned.
All right, this is okay. You guys all
guilty not remembering right now.
Yeah, exactly. The answer.
Not a good people pleaser. So we said it's the last frontier of the mind. So I want to bring it to the mental, right? And I really like to invite you all, maybe speak of where do you feel this urge to people please, okay? And then when you don't do it, where do you feel the guilt? So getting out of the head and maybe getting in touch with that urge in the body, right? Anybody can relate? I think, Jon, you want to start? Can we start with you? Like, where do you feel this urge? Like, can you run through how you get activated as a people pleaser?
Yeah, it's funny. So I'm thinking back at some examples where, my team will ask me to buy them lunch quite often because they know that I'm going to say yes most of the time, but I've been saying no recently. And then I start to feel this, my whole body warm up. It's usually my anxiety or other emotions are in my chest, but with the guilt, I typically feel it in my upper stomach. Kind of, starts to feel a little bit nervous and nauseous down there.
Got it.
Yeah, I notice it, I observe it, and then I push through it, and then magically I'm distracted by something else. So I'm feeling like I'm making progress because it doesn't linger for more than maybe 20 minutes now.
Got it. So Elizabeth, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Elizabeth, and you said something about your son, Johan, who kind of like, oh, let me think about it. So can you also speak about your kind of like that physical urge that you want to jump in and help? At the same time, you are kind of practicing that. I'll get back to you on the airport ride.
Right. And I have to just start practicing that, right? It's sort of like pausing before you react. And I need to learn to pause and say, let me think about it instead of saying, yes, of course I can. Now I'm like, oh, right. And, I think when you ask Jon, where do you feel it? Like, I feel it in my heart. And I feel like it's a swaying pendulum of, should I do it or shouldn't I do it? Oh, should I do it or should I?
Love that pendulum.
And yeah, it just brings me back and forth. And I felt it the other day. And I think the basis of that is growing up. If I didn't do something to help someone, I was selfish. And of course, this is black and white thinking. So either I'm people pleaser or I'm selfish.
Exactly.
So this is
Beautiful.
black and white. Do you have that, Beth, that feeling of
It's interesting because that's exactly where I feel it too. It's like a tightness in my chest, and your pendulum swing doesn't leave you a lot of good options. we need to find we need to find another space for you to be instead of people pleasing or selfish.
Can you
And again,
relate?
yeah, I feel like it's getting neutral, right? For all of us in this people pleasing, whether it's buying some time and saying, let me think about it, or before you make a big decision, to try to get in that neutral space and feel, what's the right answer for you. And it gets back to some things that you've said, Arda, about authenticity. I think it's finding, tapping into that authentic self when we make a decision. Yeah.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you. So as Elizabeth said about this kind of pendulum swing, and also alluded to growing up, right? Beth, do you have a kind of sense how you might have developed the people pleaser as you were growing up? Was there something? Maybe I can add one personal. My thing was, I always had to read my parents. They never asked for help. Even after got my transformation and I was trying to figure out about my childhood, I was telling my mom, you forced me to do the dishes, or you forced me to set up the table. It's like, no, I did not. I'm going like, well, I remember you just told me yesterday, you gave me a personal example. You were telling me how great it was, the neighbor's son who was setting up the table. You told me to do that. And then after that, there's like just a blank face, but you could feel, I think people pleaser, maybe, again, I'm just throwing out these concepts for you guys, maybe relate and join, but it's like, I feel this empathetic connection to people's needs so that I can get out of my way to do things that I feel will make them happy. And growing up, that is what I did every day, 24/7. Beth,
So Arda, can I
ahead.
ask you a question? So
Oh,
do
no.
you think your mother was asking you in a kind of like secretive way to put like, oh, look at the neighbor's son? I've gotten that before. Oh, look at my friend's wife just bakes us all these goods when we go biking, and she has just a whole buffet. And I'm thinking, that's not me, but is that somebody's way of asking me to do it?
It absolutely, it was not. I confirm with everyone, it was not manipulative. She liked that, and she wanted to bring that value to me. And because of that, again, we are talking in the beginning, we were asking pros and cons. I would say that because of that, I'm a very considerate person. And I think all of you, I know all of you very well. You guys are very considerate people, because part of you is a people pleaser, but also you have that empathy. You know what the other person needs. I'm a very equal, like, if somebody at home with my wife, if somebody does, like, I have this magic measurement. If somebody does more, I have to compensate. If I do more, I back down because of the childlike thing, right? So it is absolutely upbringing, but I don't think any parents, I'm not sure about your parents and obviously our listeners' parents, what they did, but it was not manipulative. They had the best intention to bring us up in the way they want, obviously their sons and daughters to be like. But so that's why I was curious.
Yeah, thank you for answering that, Arda. The other question I have is, in this people-pleasing thing, is since I'm a black and white thinker, like it's either good or bad, right? So as I've been reflecting on this conversation, I'm thinking, if I don't give everybody what they want, everybody is going to hate me, and then I'll have no friends. So it's my way of connecting and keeping friends.
Yes.
And I almost believe that still, like, they're going to hate me. They're not going to like me. So I have to. And if I say no, what is that going to do? Am I going to be all alone?
Yeah. Before Jon and Beth jump on this, that is why I want to kind of clarify that guilt is in the mind, is like a last resort the mind uses, because it brings this thought pattern: you're going to be lonely if you don't please others, right? So if you don't please, all of a sudden, if you don't, connect with them, if you don't help them, if you don't serve them, obviously this is overboard when you're draining your energy. We don't say don't be helpful. We don't, again, back to the don't be selfish, but that pendulum swing. But that guilt is created in the mind because your thought patterns and belief systems, if you don't please others, you're going to be lonely. Nobody's going to like you. Like my mother was, again, unmanipulatively telling me, if you are not going to set up the table, it's not a desired quality. How do I know when I'm like 12 years old what quality I need to strive for, right? So I'm curious, Beth, what is your maybe childhood? Yeah.
Right, you were talking my pendulum swing, or my story from being a child, is there's like this poem about a little girl with a curl, and when she was good, she was very, very good, but she had a curl in the middle of her forehead. And when she was good, she was very, very good, and when she was bad, she was horrid. Well, that would send me screaming. Like my mom would pull a little curl into my forehead, and then I interpreted it as I was that horrid girl. So mine was either a good girl or horrid girl. So that was my childhood pendulum swing. But to your point, Arda, that was not her intention. That was not where where she was going with that. But in my child brain, that was how it got interpreted for me. So
they want the best for us, but the way communicate, I'm sure you have now having these clients, you see parents and everything, you are reflecting, like it's just they want the best, and we have clients who want the best, and when it comes to communication strategies, not everybody is on board and empowering the kids. So we are left to interpret what they mean. Are we good? Are we bad? Are we failing? Are we succeeding? Jon, what do you think?
I totally resonate with the rest of you. From mine, so mine is 100% from my upbringing. And basically my mom raised me through guilt. So I remember every day from morning to night, every single statement was a guilt trip. So, okay, Jon, hey, don't wake up today because you don't want to go to school and be successful. Just sleep in and be lazy. And I'm okay, cool. I got up, I get home from school. Hey, Jon, by the way, don't do your homework, because if you do just don't do your homework. Just be lazy and be a loser. Just don't do your homework. I was like, okay, interesting. And next repeat. And I did, but then, looking back, obviously she was being manipulative, but not intentionally. She just didn't have the communications tools to communicate what she wanted. So guilt tripping was the only tool she had accessible to her at that time. So had she met Arda and the rest of us, it's a generational thing that we're trying to break.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you do that with your kids now, Jon?
Good question.
You're reading my mind. I literally was thinking about it. I actually will catch myself like subconsciously wanting to use guilt to get my kid to do something I can't, right? Like, I just want to, but then it's so, for me, it's so, I have so much PTSD from it that I found myself being like, stop doing it. So right now with my kids, I don't know, I'm just using, open-ended, curious questions to guide them is more, versus telling them what to do, giving them open space to figure things on their own, and kind of learn the hard way, I guess.
Elizabeth, are you using some of the techniques?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And, and I realized that I'm like, oh, if you don't go with your father, he is going to feel so guilty. I mean, so bad and sad. And like when I try to manipulate somebody into it. So that manipulation technique, that's very deep in me too, but I won't do that. And I stay out of it, but it's like a forceful pause, stay out, pause, stay out. That's their relationship, so It's hard though. But it's great that we're aware of these patterns so that we can continually work on them. I do wish I had some of these techniques when my son was younger, but we're where we are, and he's a great kid. So, and now he's teaching me. Just say you'll think about it.
I think about it. Exactly. Let me think about it. Love it. So by the way, did you guys notice what John's mom was doing? It is interesting.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yes, it is interesting.
What do you call that?
Yeah.
What do you call that?
Yeah.
Reverse psychology?
Yes.
There you go.
And it is almost like borderline our first communication strategy, do the opposite. So instead of telling, John, wake up early in the morning, go study, do your homework, be the man, you're successful, etc. He's like, don't worry, just stay in bed, whatever.
Be a loser.
It's an interesting, the reverse psychology, exactly, Beth.
Kind of interesting. It's the first time I've really heard that. It's like, it's more than guilt. It's like, yeah, the reverse psychology, and it kind of worked. Although you're traumatized by it.
I'm traumatized.
Yeah.
Maybe a great, maybe a healthy dose might be, I mean, we might recommend that to parents who are actually pressuring the kids.
That's a leap of faith.
Yeah.
My kid might say, sure, and throw the covers over.
Yeah, that's true. You have to start right when they're born. Right when they're born.
There.
I have a question for the three of you. Is there such thing as parenting with too little guilt?
Too little guilt. What do you mean? Tell us a little bit more about that. Too little guilt, meaning you're like thinking laissez-faire, like, hey, you're gonna put your fingers into the power socket. Yeah, go ahead, and you're gonna learn from electricity, or you're gonna let me give you one where the other day I asked this: if you saw your kid running fast and you had this flash that the kid is about to fall, would you call them, hey, stop running fast, you're gonna fall, or you're gonna let the kid fall? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying?
That's such a perfect analogy. I love it. Yeah, happens every day in my life too. I'm curious what what you guys think.
I almost take it a little bit differently. Yes, I would let him fall or her fall, but if you have too much of that and you just let your kids do whatever, then you grow up thinking your parents don't care about you.
Exactly.
And that's the offshoot from that they just don't care. They never cared what I did. Yeah. And that's an opposite. That's a different problem.
Exactly.
I love that.
Beth, what do you think the answer is?
Oh, I don't think there's an answer, but I think there are different types of
There's no answer to parenting, right, Beth? You have 3 kids.
And whatever your answer is, it's the wrong one.
Oh, or maybe the right one. Every answer is the right one.
Who parented however, and then my kids are like, but mom, you did X, Y, and Z, and you did this. And I was like, okay, well, maybe that's how it was interpreted by you, but this is what I was trying to do. So it comes back whether your intentions are there or not.
But you know what I noticed, Beth, is that there's communication afterwards at your house. So a lot of this goes on without any communication, touching base, connecting with your parents. But both of you and myself, we're connecting back. Oh, let me apologize for this. Oh, I said it this way. And how did you take it? So that's a huge difference already in and of itself.
Yeah,
communication, exactly. John, in the falling or fast running kid situation, what would you do when your kid anticipated by you, as you anticipated, falls down and hurts his or her knee? What would you be your communication, kind of bringing that awareness to them?
So after they've fallen?
Yes, because I'm assuming you will be thriving for a parenting with less guilt, as you were asking.
Yeah, I would totally let my son fall. Yep.
Would you have a communication, as Elizabeth was saying, would you have some kind of communication to bring a little bit more awareness? Would you let them understand, oh, when I've when I don't care, I'm careless, running fast, I will fall.
Yeah. So what I think most parents would say, and what my urge to say is, oh, see, did you learn your did you learn your lesson? Right.
That's what I told you was going to happen. That's what I told you.
That's
So as an adult,
excellent parenting.
exactly. But now it's more energetically. I'm just like, I just pick them up, hold them tight, let them know I'm there, just feel my heartbeat. So it's less words I'm using now these days. It's more just comforting. And so they can still feel like, okay, I'm still safe. I'm still safe I made the mistake, but I'm safe. Right?
Beautiful. Beautiful. By the way, let me interrupt. How did we get here? We were talking about the people pleaser. So let's get back to the people pleaser.
Yes.
Great tangent conversation. Excellent. And we should do a podcast about this parenting situation and communication. So maybe the last area that we could explore together is the pattern, right? What happens if we go into this? We talked about the urge, feeling the urge of people pleasing in our body, and we cannot stop. Like, I mean, our listeners will be like, I'm a people pleaser, I don't think I can stop. Well, we have the self-observation meditation, slow down, tell them, hey, let me think about it, etc. These are kind of pausing tools. But when I get into people pleasing, where am I heading? What is my pattern? What happens at the end of this pattern when I keep people pleasing?
I think I just fall apart. I just get too stressed out. I'm losing myself. And so I lose my health and I lose, and then I can't people please anymore because it's almost like your body and your mind tell you that's enough. You're not going to work anymore until you take a look at this pattern. Anyway, that's what, yeah.
Do you ever regret it, Elizabeth? Do you ever regret afterwards? Like, man, I shouldn't have said.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it's a lesson for the future, right? I think all these issues, it's a lesson for, last time I did that, and I just had a headache or I felt poorly or whatever. Next time I'll say, let me think about it, or just, no, I can't do it.
Exactly. And the art of becoming unstuck from what? Unstuck from the patterns, right? So as we understand, and after this, I really want to kind of discuss what we can do to break this pattern. Beth, do you
yeah, I just want to just say,
yeah,
you said, you say no, and that's great. Or you say, let me think about it. But then, as Jon said, you still have that feeling of guilt that's still there. But Arda, I feel like you've told us that guilt is sort of like maybe, I don't know, manipulation of your mind, of your ego or whatever. So if you can say, okay, this is not real, this is just a manipulation of my mind or my thoughts or beliefs, and I can change those things, I think that helps get to maybe a part of the root of the problem. And so once you can view it that way, maybe it's going to be easier to not feel the guilt moving forward.
Exactly. And when you have the guilt, maybe staying with the guilt, right? So the mind already creates this guilt. You are feeling anxious in your body. Maybe kind of understanding that it is the mind manipulation, and then staying and not giving into that people-pleasing trend.
Right. And the other thing, artists, so the other thing, sorry I interrupted. I just had to like blurt out my idea. But when you get into that people pleasing and then you say no, or I'll think about it, you sit with it, but then it's really good for me just to let go of control and say, let's see what happens. Are those things I'm worried about really going to happen? And that's hard to do, but if you can just let it happen once or twice, and most likely you probably get positive reinforcement from that. Like, they're still my friends and I said no. So what do you think? Am I speaking your language?
Yeah. Jon, I'm going to ask you before I do that. So let me just talk to that, because it is a great, how do you face the fear? Because we have the fear. So let's give me one word each. Start, Elizabeth, give me one word. What is the fear, underlying fear, why we are people pleaser? Fear of
fear of loneliness.
Beautiful. Jon?
Fear of not being liked.
Yes, Beth.
John, that was mine. Inadequate, fear of being inadequate.
Beautiful. Mine is not valued, right? Not seen. If I don't people please, I will feel not worth. I will feel not seen, not recognized. So I do it for that. So we have to face that fear. When the guilt comes, we sit with the guilt and get curious, what's going to happen? And then facing that fear, the body, rattles, but body gets really under this shock. And then we use the 3x3 to understand the shock and then release the shock through the 3x3 breath work, right? So that is the key, Elizabeth. I think I wanted to answer because it's such a great question. Like, how do you keep facing the fear? How can you face the fear? And with more understanding. I think you listed 3. One of them was becoming aware that we are people pleaser, then understanding, right, why we are people pleaser, and then third is acceptance. I think you summarized it so well, Elizabeth. Acceptance. When we accept, then when we do those 3, we can face the fear or whatever that is. We are 4 people here, 4 different fears. Everybody has their own fear because they have their own parents.
Yeah.
Right. So beautiful, beautiful. The last thing, communication strategies. Can you guys touch on the communication strategies? I'm a people pleaser. What shall I do? How do I communicate this no to my friends, to my parents? I'm not going to call you guys every week, every day, because it is exhausting. So what do I do? What are the communication strategies I can use to break this pattern of people pleasing?
Well, I think Beth had a great idea to say, let me think about it and get back. And for example, if I have a phone call and I know the people talk a long time, family members and everything, I'll actually say I will say I have 30 minutes.
Love that.
I have 30 minutes because this is my life, my time. And I used to think I'd have to say I have 30 minutes because after that I have to go run to the store. And I just have 30 minutes because they don't need to know all the things that you have to do. Right.
Just FYI, it's not just limited to 30 minutes. You can say 5 minutes too for those listeners who want to.
Whatever you decide. Right. I have 2 minutes. Then you have to formulate your thought in 2 minutes.
I love what you're saying. This is my life. Probably this is the last thing a people pleaser thinks. This is my life. And
it's valuable.
Yes, I am valuable. My time is valuable. Beautiful. John, what do you think about the communication strategies?
I guess doing the opposite, right? So instead of just the situations where you usually would say yes or give in, but saying no, but not in like a mean or resentful way or something to prove, but just say no in a way that you feel that you're just like Beth talked about boundaries and aligning with your values.
Yes, doing the opposite. Exactly. If you said yes, say no. If you used to say no, say yes, and bring that color, but on your life, right?
Yeah. A quick question on that, by the way, for all of just really quick. Out of 10 times that I know you've all said no 10 times now since you've been working on your people pleaser. How many times out of 10 has someone actually stopped liking you, valuing you, stop talking with you?
Who's going first?
Arda,
Beth? Oh, is it for me?
Yeah, for each of you. So Arda, I'll let you start.
With me?
Yeah, start with you.
So I lost some friends.
Oh, gotcha.
I lost some friends. Yes. It is interesting because I was going to bring up another pattern. Like, how do you know that you're a people pleaser? You may not know if you are not really present and working on yourself for a while. You will not be able to recognize this urge that we talked about. Forget about the dropping into the body, because it is all happening under the surface in the subconscious. But what happens is that when you get into the pattern and you don't know that you are people pleasing, what happens is that you create this expectation that other people will be reciprocating your favors,
Mm,
right? So immediately you get frustrated when your expectations are not met.
that's right.
So your people pleasing turns into disappointments of others.
Wow.
I'm doing all of this for you, and I asked you one thing, or I was expecting one thing from you, and you're not coming through.
Mhm.
You are not giving that back to me. That frustration, my friends, is number one sign that you are a people pleaser, as well as you are deep in your limiting life pattern. So when that starts to happen, you release that frustration and all that kind of stuff. So that's how I realized I am giving. And then I was becoming the bully, right? I was turning from people pleaser into the bully. I want my friends to act in a certain way.
Mhm.
And then they are not acting certain way. And then I get pissed off at them. And all of a sudden, the relationship is not healthy. So then I stopped people pleasing. And guess what? Some of them stopped calling me. Some of them having meaningful conversations, because I realized I was forcing it, because I wanted to feel connected. I wanted to feel, community. They didn't.
Yes.
So
That's
some of
beautiful.
them fell off naturally, because I said, okay, I'm not people pleasing. I'm not catering to their needs. I want my needs. And they were not met. So I found others.
So, John, that was a really interesting question, because I think I've lost friends too. And when I think about it, I am very, so, you make friends with people that you fit into, like people that expect a lot of you. So some of the friendships where it was totally unbalanced anyway, I probably lost those friendships because I'm attracted to those people that need help, right? So by
Yes.
pulling away and making different friends, I found more balance in my life.
Oh,
Oh,
awesome.
And what
beautiful.
I want to just add to that, because Arda was talking about communication strategies, I think what everybody's saying speaks to another communication strategy, which is, and John, you alluded to this, your heart values. So by tapping in and owning those heart values, and I've had a friendship similar, you can say, okay, this isn't aligned for me. This relationship, this friendship does not speak to who I am and who I want to be. And so that's valuing yourself by letting that go.
Huge. And the way you use, Beth, the I feel statement, standing by your values, you're understanding yourself and saying, I feel this, I care for this is important to me, is something that a people pleaser never thinks about. So you're bringing up an incredible point, adding to what John and Elizabeth said. Beautiful. Yes.
Yeah.
John, you want to answer your own question?
Yeah.
And as a last minute.
Oh, no, thanks, Arda. And by the way, all your answers were beautiful and so relatable. It's my initial answer was that actually I did not lose any relationships, and I was thinking more just from just like more corporate and work relationships as well.
Mhm.
That I was just starting to say no to salespeople, no to my suppliers, not responding to everything, and there was no change in relationship. They just,
They probably respected you more in some instances, right?
That's
Right.
right. This was all in my head. I thought everybody wanted something from me, when in reality, they were just reaching out and checking in. And I was making up this whole thing in my head. So once I stopped, nothing else changed externally, because I just felt less pressure on myself. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
Beautiful. And when that happens, you turn inward, and all of a sudden that side of you that is craving for validation is released from that pressure, and that releases this beautiful energy, more time, more energy for yourself to validate that side. So all of a sudden you pick up a hobby, like Elizabeth said, you pick up a new friend, and all of a sudden you have another interest. So you're on your way to please yourself. And when you start claiming your life like this, and when you start becoming more whole, because that void who create validation outside goes away, then the life is incredible, beautiful
Beautiful summary.
play, right?
It's how it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
That was a great conversation, everyone. Thank you.
Oh my
So
God.
illuminating.
Thank you so much. What a energy you guys brought in. What a wisdom. So thank you so much. And we'll have another limiting light pattern, another conditioned self, another mask next episode. Stay tuned. And I'm going to say what probably all listeners are thinking. Hope to see you all back next week.
Thank
Till
you.
next time, have
Thanks.
fun and be well. Ciao.
Thanks, everyone.